We are happy to welcome Miki Agrawal onto Break the Business. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Doing
Great, how are you?
so well. Compliments to your haberdasher. That is a fabulous piece of headwear you have.
Yeah, hats turns out are really good shade structures for your skin. No, and also they're an accessory that I feel like has now come back in full effect. But I feel like when I would go to conferences, I'd be the only one wearing a hat, like literally in a sea of people. And it was always like a really great kind of conversation starter. Nice hat. What's your name? Where are you from? So it's just always been a thing. I just love hats.
I think that's a pretty good networking tip right out the gate, Elisa Rockdock. You're always going to conventions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You throw on a hat, that sounds like a great conversation starter, especially one as like terrific as Miki's there.
That's a pretty solid hat.
A lot of hat.
That's a good hat.
I'm not sure what the volume of that hat is, but could we say 10 gallon? I mean,
How many gallons?
Yeah, probably.
like there's a lot of hat there, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. This is one of the more intriguing interviews that I think we've done in a while, Miki, because you've been a acclaimed entrepreneur for a long time, and certainly you could be on a great deal of podcasts, including this one, just talking about what you've done in entrepreneurship. That's an interview within itself. But the reason why you're here on this particular program, which celebrates both entrepreneurship and artistry and music, is you have really kind of come into this new journey as a musician. You put out this debut album under your moniker Soul Gaze called It All Exists, a double album, which I think is pretty cool and ambitious. Yeah. And, seeing you kind of transition into this new career from an entrepreneur is pretty interesting. And so I'm curious, are the skill sets of being an entrepreneur, are they transferable into the creative product, or is this completely new for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, so stoked to be here with you guys. And this is like, it's just so wild to be talking about music as the thing that I'm talking about, because I always talk about my businesses, entrepreneurship, and all of those things. And so it's just a wild moment. But yeah, it's a really transferable skill set. Creativity is creativity, right? So like, being innovative and creative in entrepreneurship definitely translates in music. And coming up with an idea and translating it to a produced album is the similar thing as creating an idea and a product, and then really seeing it through to launch and execution is a similar thing. And I think the best musicians who achieve a lot of success also are pretty robust entrepreneurs as well. They really understand how to print things quickly, how to get things out the door, and how to package things well. And not that that's really like what my music was about at all, but there's from a lens of like, oh, you just put out this album that's so like, like my friends were just like, okay. I think for me it was really it's not a bit, I'm not treating this as a business. Like for me it's really hymns from my heart that kind of came through me during my uncoupling of my 11-year marriage. And I just wrote 17 songs during this sort of breakup period. And it was really around the wild melange of love and like all the different textures of love that exist. And it's like, when you go through 11-year marriage and you kind of uncouple, people are like, oh, are you okay? Or like versus like, wow, we had an amazing chapter together. We crushed it in so many different ways. There are parts that we kind of ended up going this way instead of this way. And that's, ultimately the reason why we decided not to stay together. But, truly we had a successful marriage for the 11 years that we had. Maybe the last year and a half were the most challenging. But I don't call it a failure. I also experienced anger and frustration and sadness and gratitude and excitement and joy, all the feelings that one goes through from the realm of love. And each song in this album represents a moment in time of like yearning, like the deepest yearning to like have him just do less and be more, like stop doing, just be with me, like, or the song Queen was really about how I the deep desire of all of my feelings being welcomed in. One of the lines is, my anger is as sacred as my joy, and we welcome in all of our feelings. And, you know, like the first song, Antarctica, is really the song that like broke through my freedom from like, wait a minute, like I feel an opening. I feel like this freedom in the air. And like, I just feel this remarkable, like, energy coming through me that just means that like I'm going in the right direction, like coming out of this relationship, even if it meant so much to me. And even if he still means so much to me as my baby daddy, and he lives 8 minutes from me, we talk multiple times every day about our kid and about just what we're up to. And so we're still deep allies. But, you know, the you know, the album really is kind of, I call it a dance opera of sorts, where it kind of takes you through the entire journey of kind of this process of like the yearning, the desire, the anger, the sadness, the frustration, the trying again. Maybe we should just like, fuck it, let's try it again. Like life comes and goes like a fart in the wind. That's the song Fart in the Wind, which is like, fuck it, let's just try again. Let's just do one last like Hail Mary and see if this works. And then the very last song is called Changed. And you know, the refrain is, I've changed, you've changed, and it's okay. Like we've changed and it's okay. Like change is inevitable. It's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going our separate ways. We had an incredible chapter together, and it's okay. And so, yeah, it just like, at first I just wrote it because I was like, I needed to move this energy in a new way. And I think like it just came out in song. And then I brought in my incredible, talented friend Happy as my, you know, sort of bandmate, singing partner. You know, I did the spoken word, and then she did all the beautiful lyrical singing. And then we brought in our incredible friend Gene Navarro Jr., fourth generation musician and producer. And he's one of Ryex's producers. He's amazing. And just the three of us, just, you know, they flew to Costa Rica first. We produced our first 4 songs. Then they came to Austin here in my casita right near their room, and we made the next 4. And then, you know, boom, we put it out a couple months later, and here we are. So it just kind of all happened pretty quickly. But I'm always in the camp of like, don't dilly dally. Like when inspiration hits, just put it out. And, you know, the reason why I decided to actually put it out was because when I sent it to tons of friends, they were just like, this is so, it's like touching me to my soul in ways that like, it feels like it completed a process in my uncoupling, in my breakup, in my challenges, in my yearnings, my desires, my wantings, like in relationship in such a raw way. Like it really did something for me, completed something inside of me. And they were just like super encouraging to like, just put it on Spotify. Like anyone can do it. So I did that. And
so the impulse and the ability, the desire to create music, is this something that you always knew you had from a very young age, or did this just sort of present itself now after you got through the entrepreneurial ventures in your life, and you know, with what's been going on with your marriage? Like did this all just appear then, or did you always know, oh, I could make music, I could be a musician?
Well, I was like in a musical when I was 10 years old, and I always was like in the musical world. I'm half Japanese, half Indian, so I grew up with.
We need to know which musical. This is very, very important. You got a couple theater kids here.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely don't know this one. It's a very obscure one. It's called How to Eat Like a Child.
You know, I actually saw that on Broadway last summer. Bernadette Peters was amazing in it. Just
Yeah, no, it's really about like, it's just about the wildness of being a child. How do you like a child? It's an amazing musical that I just sort of, you know, and I was really into music, but I was never a singer, but always a writer, like a creative, like a writer, a creative. And so, you know, I DJ'd for the last 10 years. I've been DJing at Burning Man every year. My sister started an incredible music events company called Daybreaker, which is an early morning dance movement before work starts. You can check out daybreaker.com. It's so freaking epic.
That sounds cool.
And there's like 500 people around the world that wake up and dance every month. It's just insane, you know, and sober. And it's just in the morning before work starts. It's just the wildest thing. And it's a true movement. And so my sister and I we've DJ'd, you know, Daybreakers over the last 10 years. And we've also, you know, DJ'd at Burning Man, different kind of little events. Again, very under the radar. We don't have any like real, you know, we have a kind of a lame SoundCloud page that no one knows about. But like we've just, you know, just been a side hobby in this music as well, like writing this, you know, the album, it all exists, was really just kind of like a creative, like just creative expression that just wanted to come out. And I've written 2 books. Again, I've started the company Thinx. I don't know if you've heard of the period proof underwear company, and then the bidet company Tushy, which if you don't have one, it'll change your life. Go to hellotushy.com. We just launched our new website, which I'm super proud of.
Church.
Right? It's like you are a savage if you use dry paper to wipe your ass. It doesn't make any sense. You're killing.
I can't travel the same way anymore.
It's horrible. Yeah.
I miss it.
Well, I know we actually have a travel tushy as well. It's like for $29. You actually literally a little water bottle that you squeeze your.
This is an insanely gross metaphor, but I think it's quite apt. Somebody I once heard it described as wiping yourself with dry toilet paper as trying to get peanut butter out of shag carpet.
Exactly.
And ever since then, I'm like, yep, no more dry toilet paper. That makes sense.
No, but even wet wipes actually cause anal fissures, which strip away
no.
Yeah. So if you're using wipes, it actually over time strips away the natural oils, creating these fissures, these tiny lacerations, and there's anal fissure operations have gone way up because of the wet wipe consumption. And also major cities like New York City are trying to ban wet wipes because they clog the city's drains. They fatbergs are horrible for the environment. And Tushy, like a bidet, it literally is the most game-changing thing you can do, both from a cleanliness, a feeling confident, and also we've saved millions of trees from getting flushed down the toilet. It's just a no-brainer. You save so much money, thousands of dollars in your lifetime over toilet paper that you just save that money by using a bidet once. Our product is $99. It's just a no-brainer. Anyways.
I don't think we've covered a wider scope of topics in an interview in 8 years of doing this podcast than what we've done just in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I digress. I'm very passionate about it. I mean, I'm very clearly. And so, we've actually written a Booty and Duty mixtape for Tushy. If you go to Spotify, and type in Booty and Duty mixtape by Tushy, it's like a full album as well on just the most ridiculous, hilarious shit you've ever heard. So, I've been always into music.
So. At least I'm gonna need you to ask the next question while I compose myself.
To answer the question, I've been into music for a long time.
It's like I'm not even gonna get on the tangent. One of the things that I love as I'm a musician, I'm writing music myself. And I'm sort of like kind of going through like genre phases and like what I want things to sound like. I was intrigued by the fact that it's a double album that's out for It All Exists. That's dance, but also acoustic. Yeah. And I'm wondering which came first, and sort of how did you arrange, sort of one into the other, or how was that process?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, because like, for me, I was always like, oh, these songs could be, it just depends on where you are in your heart and where you are in your like emotional state. And I was like, sometimes like I want to put a hoodie on and just like dance and just like get just lost in my own dance, which is why I love dancing. And then I also like just sitting and listening to the words from a singer-songwriter, just really crying, like, or whatever. Not just crying, but like joyful or whatever, just feeling and hearing the words and reading the lyrics. Like there's something about the acoustic. So I've always loved both genres. And I was like, the first that came was the acoustic. And then we kind of took some of the refrains and with the help of Gina and Happy's magic, really turned them in. And I wanted to sing and do something on the albums myself. So I'm like, well, I'm not really a singer, but I can do the spoken word, and I can, like add the, like a kind of a different vibe to it. And so, it was more of like a creative choice to like, I want to like test my own fears and limits and put my actual voice in it. Actually, like last month, I took my first like 5 singing lessons, and I started bawling before my first singing lesson because I was just like, it's such a scary thing to like really put yourself out like that. There's some trauma sometimes attached to your throat chakra in a lot of ways, and so it was a really, really powerful way for me to really free my voice in a totally, totally different way that I've never done before. Like I've been able to do that through like creating disruptive companies or like writing, books or whatever, but like never from a lens of singing. I haven't actually sung yet, although in the acoustic album, the very last bonus track, I'm like in my Costa Rica like house, just tapping on my pillow and singing it in my phone. So it's like that's me singing, and I'm quite embarrassed about it. But you know, I'm like, again, the whole point is like, hey, we only have one life. Like, just like, let's let things come through, and there's no shame. It's all love, and it's, you know, just keep moving. So yeah, it was a really fun, but then the dance came second, and it was really like, I wanted bouncy music. I wanted, you know, really kind of long tails with guitar riffs that really go on. That feels very, very positive, but driving forward, like, you know, so they all have their own vibe.
I want to ask you this, and I want you to resist the impulse to give the diplomatic "I love my children all equally" answer. If I had to like,
and speaking of, I do have to put my son to bed shortly. Just letting you know.
Got it. Well, we got about 5 minutes before we lose radio anyway, so I think we can nail this. Your son needs to get to bed. My son needs to get bed. At least the rock doc needs to get to bed. So I'm with you. But if we had to like really get you to give one answer, okay?
Yeah.
What, you know, I'm genuinely curious. What do you find most enjoyable? Building businesses, writing books, because you do a lot of that, or making music?
Ooh.
Wow. I mean, they're so similar yet so different, right? That's like, they're all creative, and yet the execution of them are totally different. Obviously the music is the most new. So like, I just bought a little house in Austin town. Like, I have my lake house here where I'm living, but then I also bought actually the guitarist for the band Explosions in the Sky. So and so I bought his house that has a music studio in the back with 25 years of music in the walls. And so I'm building a studio, like a really Austin, 25-year-old Austin studio that's just so vintage, and I'm going to turn it into like a place where we can just create. So there's where we're all gonna, you know, bring my friends and late night, like just making music hang sessions, and just like kind of bringing back that old like Brooklyn feel music days, you know, and Austin feel music days. And so I'm really, really into continuing to free my voice in all the different ways, and making music and finding new lyrical patterns. I want to like get into rap. Like, I think I can be a rap. I don't know, like, just like try, and not, and again, this is not to like become an artist in that way. It's just putting out art, you know, like I'm going to Burning Man on Saturday, which is like the big giant music festival in the desert of Nevada. And one of the things I love about it is one of the principles is decommodification, which is, there's no one puts their names on like the beautiful artwork that people do. They're just putting art out for the sake of art. It's not to build a business or start a thing. Like, you know, I feel like I've grinded enough in my businesses to be business, you know, to do that as my business. The art form of music is more of like true art form, just to put out music for the sake of music, you know.
Wow. I dig that. And you know, that was a little bit of a diplomatic answer, but we'll allow it because it actually was quite stirring, and it gave us a lot of great info.
Well, diplomatic. So what was the actual question?
Which of the three things do you find most enjoyable? Building businesses, writing books, or making music?
I enjoy the building of business piece because of like the game of Tetris, of like figuring it out and launching something, and like the, you know, the kind of like the rush of figuring things out, and like that you know, and I'm pretty good at it, and so like it's fun to do something that you excel at, you know. So I've spent 20 years like really building that muscle. So I really love the business building companies. Writing is, I do writing. I write my journal like almost every day. So like, I love writing. I've written 2 books. I have a third one that I'm working on right now. And, you know, so like, they're all different. So like, yeah, maybe it is diplomatic. Like, I'm really enjoying the medium of music right now because it's so new, but it's not a business for me. It's truly for the art form.
But it is still exciting to see you bring an entrepreneur's mind and a creator's spirit to this musical project. If you want to follow our guest, Miki Agrawal, on her journey, check her out at mikiagrawal.com. That's MIKI Agrawal.com. You can check out her debut album, It All Exists, under the moniker Soul Gaze. Miki, before we let you go and get, you know, so you can get your kid to bed, and everybody else who needs to get to bed can get to bed, we got one last question for you. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
Yeah, I think, if you have that spark of an idea, like just put those running shoes on, walk out that door. Like, that 99% of going to the gym is putting your running shoes on and walking out that door. And I think like when you have an inkling of an idea of a music, then just use that momentum to finish it, print it, make it happen, and don't stop until it's out. Like I think there's such a like, oh, there's this, and I get distracted with that, and I get distracted with this, and I get distracted. Just like get it done. I call it. Instagram is where you can also message me just at Miki Agrawal. But I talk about one of my reels I made just about like, someone asked me like what is the secret to like making so much shit, and my answer is no dilly dally. Like don't dilly dally. Just like get it done, and there's like nothing but you stopping you from making it happen. So just like don't dilly dally. Like if you have an idea, get after it. Like especially in music, that's such an inspirational thing where you have to like otherwise it just becomes another thing in your notes page that you just forget about. So just keep going until it's done and printed. So print.
This
Yeah.
was an absolute pleasure, Miki. Thank you both for the excellent chat and the excellent hat this week. And all the best in everything you're doing. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much, both of you. Have a beautiful night with your children and putting yourselves to bed.
Right on.
All right. Take care.